Howdy, I'm Dov Corbet. I'm coming from you today from the corner of my studio where I sit and reflect and read and draw and sketch. And recently I've been reflecting upon trees. Got this great book here, The Meaning of Trees. And I just finished this series of 10 paintings called Through the Leaves. And I wanted to just talk about that a little bit. What trees mean to me and what trees mean to our culture, leaves, and how they kind of play a part in our own psyche. When I was a kid, I spent a lot of time climbing trees. We had a couple of big trees in our backyard. And one day, the tree would be a tree, and the next day it would be a castle, and I'd be fighting off the barbarians. Or the next day it would be a spaceship, and I'd be flying through the galaxy. The trees that I would climb, they became part of my imagination. They became more than the tree. And I would live in that moment, live in that fantasy, live in that imagination. And I think that idea has really spread through a lot of our own myths, a lot of our own culture. And that's what I wanted to try to capture in this series of called Through the Leaves. And my cat's playing over here. It's kind of distracting me a little bit. Sorry about that. And so in this series, Through the Leaves, I painted 10 paintings, and in each one I had a little bit of a different take on what trees are, our own perspective of them, our own understanding of them. And for some of us, trees are just part of the background, part of the scenery that we don't even pay much attention to. For others, trees, they take on a deeper meaning. Either we find meaning in the trees, or they remind us of times in our lives. They remind us of location. Sometimes just the smell of a tree or the sight of a tree will bring us back to childhood, or will bring us back to a time where an important event happened in our life. They're even developing now a coffin or a casket that's actually, when you die, you go into it and they plant it with a tree, and then you actually nourish the tree as you grow up. And I think that's kind of cool. As a tree grows, it nourishes you, so it's your tree, it's your life force. And certainly, in my life, when I think about trees, metaphorically, I think about the seasons, which is a great metaphor there, where we have times in our lives where we are dormant, where we are restful, where we are just waiting. We have other times where we just spring forth with lots of energy, and I attempt to capture that energy in some of the paintings that I did. There's a lot of motion, a lot of activity, a lot of colors in it that are just very energetic. And that's like spring just bursting forth, and all of a sudden you're just out there, and you're just running full force, and you've got all this energy. And then you kind of get into that kind of lethargic summertime where things are warm, but things are still growing and things are still moving, and life's kind of humming along, and the energy patterns have been established, and you're kind of just going through routine, but you're still growing and still moving. And then you'll enter a time in your life of fall, nearing winter, where you start to see things kind of fall off, and you kind of withdraw back into yourself. So for me, trees can be very metaphorical, like the seasons that they go through. But also, if you think about a tree, it's got its root system, and we say people are very grounded, they've got a very deep roots. That community's got really deep roots, or that person's got really deep roots in that community, and those tree metaphors, that analogy there, where the tree roots, that they go out and they find nutrients and they feed the tree, and that's the roots in our lives, where we go out and find what we need. If it's community, if it's substance, if it's exercise, if it's creativity, whatever it is that we need in our lives to feed us, that's the root system working, and then we've got those branches reaching out, and some trees, every tree's different, but every type of tree is also different. Some grow very slim and very tall, others grow very short and out, and some grow with just branches going in all directions. Some are very hardy and they can survive through a lot, like a big oak, and some are great for timber. They grow up nice and straight, and they can be cut into nice long planks for building. So there's all all these metaphors that you can take out of trees when you look into people's lives. You know, what kind of tree is that? You know, and they have these personality tests and personality exercises that you can do about trees. You know, what kind of tree are you, and how do you survive in certain stressful situations, and how do you adapt to, you know, to changing situations. And you know, and so I think for us in our culture, there is this idea of trees that plays out a lot. You know, and even deeper in our culture, in our religion, you think of like within mythology. You know, you've got the Yggdrasil, the tree that holds the 9 realms within the Norwegian mythology. You've got within Christianity, you've got the tree that, you know, you've got the trees in the Garden of Eden, but then you've also got, you know, the tree of good and evil, and the tree of life and death, you know. And so, but beyond that, you also have like the tree that Christ died upon in Golgotha, you know. And so there's this idea of tree that plays again and again in our cultures and in our myths and in our understanding, and we really draw off that psychologically, I think, you know. And there's even a study that I read just recently within the last couple of weeks of, they were take people out into a forest, to old growth forest, and monitor their heart rate as they walk through the forest, and their blood pressure as they walk through the forest, and actually their blood pressure would diminish. It would actually get better, you know. So being out there is relaxing, being in nature, being in those around those trees has a calming effect upon you. And many people say that, you know, they love to go for hikes in nature or walks in nature because it calms them down. Or they like to go out and sit in their garden and meditate because it calms them down. So the trees are just really, you know, sometimes we lose sight of them. Sometimes they're just in the background, or they're just decorative and they're just kind of around, but sometimes we sit and reflect upon them. And so in this series that I did, I kind of touched base with a lot of different aspects of trees, and kind of some in bloom and some in autumn and some in summer, and I was trying to highlight, you know, all the different aspects of trees, but also provoke within us or the viewer something, a thought, you know, something that in that painting would capture them, and then it would make them stop and think and remember, oh, this situation or that instance when they were among the trees, and what it means for them in their own life, that they would be able to reflect upon it a little bit. So you can see the paintings at my website, which is davcorbet.com, www.davcorbet.com. I also have a Facebook group called The Studio of Dav Corbet, and you can check that out as well, or Instagram DavCorb. I appreciate your time. Have yourself a great day.